Uh,
Howdy, everybody.
it's us again.
It's us, the two chicks with hiking sticks, coming to you live
Uh,
from our own respective offices.
Living rooms.
Okay. Well, this is my office.
Yeah, well, my office is a pit right now. Sorry.
Well, we are the two chicks that are bringing you wonderful things. I'm Susan,
I'm Monica.
and together we cover the natural, historic, and cultural things that are around us.
Yes, we do.
And I'm so excited about today's topic. And today's
Oh,
topic is,
more Civil War.
well, when you think about the National Public Service units, there are an awful lot of battlefields that are covered,
Yes.
and saved and
Yes.
preserved, right? And so this is one of them, but it's a big one because if you remember, if you guys go back and look at our Gettysburg one that we did, um, we talked about military parks, and military parks are like kind of like the big significant battlefield type of places. Well, today we are going to cover Vicksburg National Military Park. So, do you know where Vicksburg is? It's in
Somewhere in the
Mississippi.
South?
Yeah, it is. Well, of course, it's in the South. Yes, it's in the South.
Yay me.
It's in Mississippi. It's like
Oh,
M-I, crooked letter I, crooked letter I, humpback I. Did you ever spell Mississippi that way? Oh,
no.
like as a kid, you never spelled Mississippi like that.
No. I've never heard that,
Oh
but
my
I'm
gosh,
not shocked that it came from you.
every time we leave, because I just came back from Daytona, and every time we drive to Daytona and drive back, every time we go through Mississippi, I have to sing Mississippi. That's how you spell it. That's how you learned how to spell it when you were a kid. Okay, let me qualify that. That's how I learned how to
There
spell it
you
when I was
go.
a
There you
kid.
go. There you go.
Okay, well, Vicksburg National Military Park is in Mississippi,
Okay.
and it is it's right on the Mississippi River essentially, which is why it was so significant in the
Sure.
Civil War.
Sure. That makes sense. Of course.
Of course.
Even
So this
I
is
could figure that out.
the strategery of it all, right?
Yes. Yes.
They had bluffs, they had water, they could, the Confederates were the ones who held it because it was the Mississippi River was kind of important in the Civil War.
You think?
The control of the Mississippi River either helped you or it didn't.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So let's talk about it. So the battle that was here was actually, it's really, they call it kind of like a siege. It took 47 days, the Battle of Vicksburg.
Wow.
Because why?
I don't know why.
Because of where it was located. So this place really, it's funny, as I was preparing for today's podcast, I was going back through and looking at all the pictures I had from the couple of times that I've been to Vicksburg, because it's another place that you can go to a couple of times, at least.
That you can go to a couple of times.
Well, people should go to at least once, and then other
There you
people
go.
might want to go a few times.
There you go.
And it's really the layout of this place and what's been done to the place to preserve it is just, it is beautiful. It's a beautiful place. It really is beautiful. Not a thing you normally say about a battlefield area.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So anyhow, this place, why is it significant? Well, because it was a stronghold of the Confederacy in the Civil War, and this was really important for the South to be able to have some ground and control what went up and down the river. And who had control of the area there had control of what went up and down. And if you didn't have control of it, you weren't going to have a whole lot of supplies going anywhere.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. Sure.
And this particular battle happened in 1863. And what else happened in 1863? Gettysburg happened in April 1863. Because you remembered that, right?
Sure.
Well, um, the significance of them is that they both kind of ended at the same time. And this Battle of Vicksburg is one of, I would say, perseverance, patience, um, because it took 47 days. And so General Ulysses S. Grant, who y'all might know, was eventually a president, but he was a general in the Civil War for the Union
Right.
forces,
I
because
knew
you knew
that.
that.
Yeah.
So he was responsible for taking it, right? To take that area. And 47 days, and I'll tell you what, man, a lot of people died. A lot of people died. Like 40,000 casualties died.
Holy
Yeah,
jeez.
exactly. Like, and
That's
so we wonder about these places and the significance of these places when you have 40,000 people that died there. Kind of important.
so that's what, like over 1,000 people a day, roughly?
Well, it was 47
47
days, so
days?
just a little bit less. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, roughly, yeah.
Yeah.
That is significant.
Well, it it was, I think it underscores why this place was so important for both the North and the South. The
Yeah.
South had it, the North wanted it, didn't want the South to keep it, and Ulysses S. Grant was doing everything he could. He was throwing bodies after bodies at trying to take control. But because of the topography and everything, the Confederacy had the control of the area. And
Yeah.
so, Grant, bless his heart, was like throwing the bodies at it. Then he was doing maneuvers like, let's bring troops around this way, come around this way. And, eventually, you want to know how it ended?
Yeah, go ahead.
Not in some great big battle. It ended basically with the Confederates surrendering. And they
Wow.
surrendered because they, one, couldn't get out and make it out anywhere. Two, they had no food and were starving. And so basically that's what happened, is that after all of those bodies and all of those casualties and everything happening, it came down to basically they had to surrender because they didn't have any more food.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe having the river there didn't really help them that much at that point.
Well, now,
I mean, there was nothing coming down, I guess.
well, the North did try to attack from the river and was
Or did
repelled
they?
every time. Yeah. They finally got through going up the river with supplies as they were also coming in and attacking from land.
Mm.
And then eventually, as the ships went north, the boats and everything went north with the
Mhm.
supplies they could get through. Then basically, all they had to do on the land was basically wait it out, because they weren't going
Wow.
to get anything more. They weren't going to get, the Confederates weren't going to get any more supplies. They
Right.
didn't have
Right.
anything, they were just going to basically die. And it was hot.
Yeah. It is the
Hot,
South.
no food. That
It's
would
a
make,
wonder anybody survived that war.
well, that's why they had, what, over 600,000 casualties in the Civil
Yeah.
War? I
Yeah.
mean, and,
It,
and a
it's
lot of
it's
it
just a
wasn't
wonder.
due, well, and a lot of it wasn't due to like gunshots and stuff or rifle shots or anything. It was
Right.
due to like dysentery.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyhow, so this particular battlefield, um, there's like about their visitation. They get about 500,000 visitors. So it's a whole lot, in my view, that go and visit this particular place. And part of it is that in driving in, it's just beautiful and it's green, and it makes me go back to, we talk a lot about preservation or conservation or restoration, and like what does all of that really mean? Because this is one of the places that became really important. And I think depending upon where you are in history, you have to kind of figure out where you're at in terms of restoration. And this park had a lot of restoration.
Okay.
So, you know the differences between like preservation, conservation, and restoration?
I would be only making educated guesses. I would prefer that you go ahead and just tell us.
Well, because we do a lot of preservation in terms of like trying to protect the land that things occurred on, right?
Right.
And when we
You're not
when we
making
do
a
that,
lot of
it's like,
modifications, right? With preservation, you're trying to just keep things as they were in good condition.
and not have encroachment on that land, right? So
Right.
that they don't
Right.
start building things around it. Like
Right.
we didn't have a whole lot of preservation, say, around the Alamo here
Right.
in San
Correct.
Antonio,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
A lot of stuff got built around it, right? So that's like kind of like the first step. Then you can have like a second step that's more of the conservation, which is trying to protect some of that ecological systems and things that are around in wherever that area is, and say here we have a battlefield. But it's really the restoration that I find interesting, because I remember in one of my visits taking one of the tours that they had, talking to the park ranger. He talked about the restoration that was done, which really is returning the landscape back to what it was during the battle.
Ah, okay.
Now, mind you, this is like in 1863, or yeah, 1863. So since 1863, obviously things have happened, like trees have grown, right?
Sure.
So there was a restoration project that was done, and this goes back to the American Battlefield Trust, which we've talked about before, I think, when we talked about Gettysburg and all,
Yeah.
that they undertook cutting down and clearing out trees. So they had what they call view sheds, so that you could see the lines of sight that were available or were there during the battle.
Oh, okay. Almost like bird blinds.
Okay.
Well, when when you're a birder and they have the little huts where you can go in and kind of watch the birds and the birds don't know you're there. Sort of. I got to find some way to relate. Just let me do it, okay? Let me do it.
That's a no. That's not exactly what that is. But
I
what was
didn't
it?
say exactly. I said it helps me relate. Damn.
So a view shed is not, it's not an actual shed, because I'm thinking it's called a view shed. Now you have me doubting it. Now I'm like, do
Well,
I
now I'm
need to?
confused, okay? Now I'm confused. Thank you.
You confuse me. So now I have, yeah, they are called view sheds. Okay, I was right.
Okay, so I'm thinking like a shed where you can look, where you have a view.
Think
No?
of it like a
Okay.
vista. So, because I always remember back when I had gone to Gettysburg and done one of the, tour guide things, and they take you out there, they're like, imagine what you're looking at, but with no trees. Because there were lots of trees that were there. Imagine there are no trees here,
Right.
and, way over there across the trees and everything is such and such, whatever. Well, here in Vicksburg, they took out the trees. So you don't have to imagine the trees are gone. It is more
Okay.
like what it was, because back then, during the battle, they were cutting down trees left and right because they were using them as like weapons. They stuck them up into their, so anyhow, it was protection. So
Yeah.
they didn't have any trees. And so their view shed or their vista, whether you were on the north side or on the south side, you could see clearly what you needed to see.
Okay. Sorry, man. You say shed? I think shed.
That's a no. So anyhow,
Vista, yes, makes perfect sense.
yes. And what is really cool at this battlefield military park is that, because the North did a lot of trenches, because they were trying, because they couldn't just do a siege. They kept losing bodies and bodies, right? So
Right.
they started doing these trenches and building these trenches, and you can see where they are. These earthworks, you can see them on the battlefield, like they're there and being preserved, so that you see them there, so that you can
That's
better
cool.
understand how the battle took place, or how they prepared to be able to do a siege and get closer and closer to the Confederates that were inside. And so that's why I say, like, this particular park is really well laid out and so well preserved that you can see how it was. You can imagine it better for what it was back in the day when it was
Hmm.
during the war.
Okay. Yeah, that's very cool. When you said that, you know what it reminded me of when you were talking about the trenches when we were at the one in New Mexico, that we couldn't get into,
Fort
where you could
Union.
still see,
Was it
yes,
Fort Union?
where you could, yes, where you could still see the wagon tracks of the covered wagons, that,
And,
my
and isn't
gosh.
there exactly, because doesn't it transport you
Yeah,
there?
yeah. It makes you, it, it is kind of mind blowing to me that you can still see remnants of these things in our world that happened hundreds of years ago,
Right.
that you can still see these things. Yeah, yeah.
in
So,
and that we have groups, whether it's the National Park Service or it's like the American Battlefield Trust, that really do a lot to preserve these lands so
yeah,
that we can see them
yes,
and be able to have that experience.
yeah,
uh, I just think I'm so thankful that, again, that there are people that do that kind of thing.
yeah.
um, Now there is also the Vicksburg National Cemetery that is here as well, and there are about 17,000 burials that are there. That cemetery is beautiful. Again, when you go, it is just so peaceful. And these stones, these headstones, are from way back when, so it is worth going to. I will also say that this particular park has some of the prettiest monuments. I know, odd to talk about monuments being that pretty, but
No, no,
the text,
those are very. It's very cool to go to cemeteries where you can see stuff like that. Yeah,
well, and on the battlefield, this battlefield, so like everybody talks about Gettysburg having a lot of monuments, national or monuments that are erected to the different regiments and different things that were in the battle.
hmm
Vicksburg has just about as many,
hmm.
and which is interesting. But again, that's why they're military parks, because they were very significant, right?
Right.
And these monuments, like they have a really cool one. Well, one, the Texas monument is pretty doggone cool. And I'm sure I'll have a picture of that. The Texas monument is really cool. They have a Kentucky monument, which is basically Abraham Lincoln and Jefferson Davis. So Lincoln was the president of the United States. Jefferson Davis was the president of the Confederate
Right.
States. They both came from Kentucky. They were both from Kentucky,
Right.
and so there's actual this monument, and there's a picture of me with them. But
No.
they're life-size statues of Lincoln and Jefferson Davis.
And you in the middle brokering a deal, right?
Exactly what I was doing. That was exactly what I was doing. That was the caption that I had. And it was unfortunate because a bird had pooped on Lincoln's head. So there was a bird pooped down his head.
Oh man, the things you
Yeah.
remember. Jeez.
Well, but I'll always remember, because it was interesting. Well, back when I had gone, because I've gone to this place a couple of times. So back when I had gone, you had to kind of walk out through some kind of grassy land area to get to that particular monument where Jefferson Davis and Abraham Lincoln were. But it was so worth it to walk out there and go find it so that you could, see them. And it basically, I mean, it was interesting. You had these two people that were leading their respective countries, right? That came from the same state. And there you go.
And there you go.
And there you go. Now, there is one of my favorite stories about Vicksburg that my sister and I had gone. I think the first time we had gone, and there's my favorite story about Old Abe. So Wisconsin has this monument that's like a tall column, and at the very top of the column is a bald eagle. And just like it's pretty to look at, it's pretty, right? But there's a whole story behind Old Abe. And so somebody somewhere in the regiment, whatever, bought this bald eagle for like $2.50, which back then was probably a lot of money, right?
Right. Right.
Bought this bald eagle fledgling, grew up, kept them, everything, right? So this is the North. They took that eagle into battle. They took this eagle into
Or eagle.
battle.
God.
Well, and not to laugh, but it is kind of interesting because they would tether the eagle to a platform, a wooden platform on a stick,
Oh my God.
and take him into battle.
That
And
poor
we were like,
thing.
we're like, How did they even do that, right? I mean,
How
so but
can you
oh,
imagine that poor thing living through all that noise and everything? Oh my God.
and he survived, like, I want to say they say something like 47 skirmishes. Like, he lived beyond the war. However, I don't know how. But yeah, so
I don't
they would
either.
take him they would take him into war on the thing. They would carry him right alongside the colors, right? Somebody holding the flag, somebody's holding good old Abe.
Good night.
And so my sister and I were like, he's probably just flopping around as the guy is running.
God.
But I will say this. At least he was on a tethered cord that was like 20 feet long or something. So at least he could fly up and above a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So while, the Union troops called him Old Abe, the Confederate troops called him the Yankee Buzzard. so there was that. Yeah. So
Poor thing.
he survived lots of skirmishes.
That's
At least
crazy.
30 plus. Yeah. So anyhow,
Yeah.
I just, sometimes you go to these places and you hear these stories or you read about these stories and you're like, where does that even come from? Like, who thought
What
that
were
that was
they
a good idea?
thinking? Was that, I mean, just to have like a live mascot with you when you're fighting a war, you know? I brought my chihuahua. That would
Oh
be
my God,
today's wars.
exactly.
Everybody running in with their dogs and
We're coming to get you. Oh, yeah. I don't know. I don't know what possesses people to do
that's
that.
crazy to me. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
so that has to be like one of my favorite stories coming out of that battle. But I mean, you think how many people died, but good old Abe, he
But
survived.
he survived. Yeah, there you go. Thank God he could fly a
Oh,
little.
thank God. Now, one of the other things that they have there, as a part of the military park, is they have this thing called the U.S. This thing, it's a boat, the USS Cairo, which was and is a restored Civil War gunboat.
I've heard
So
of that.
you can actually go and see it. It's like on
Oh, cool.
display. Yeah, it's outside under a covered tarp kind of thing, because obviously it gets hot in Mississippi. But you
Yes.
can go and see the restoration that they did, bringing it up and everything, and it's pretty cool to go see that.
Yeah, that's cool.
So yeah. So again, that's kind of where we are on Vicksburg National Military Park. You
How
need to
big
go
is this
see it.
park? Sorry.
It is 1,800 acres.
It's pretty large. Yeah.
It's not small, but because you have to think about with all the earthworks and the trenches and everything that were done, that had to take up room. And then obviously, heading, because Vicksburg proper is not exactly right on the river, but it's really close to the river. Like, so you
Hmm.
figure that kind of land and everything that was taken up. But it was interesting too that while it was protected as a military park back in 1899, it wasn't until 1933 that the National Park Service took it over. So it took some time, but again, it's one of those key places that obviously people back then in 1899 thought we really need to preserve this because this is a
Right.
significant part of history, right?
Right.
And and
Smart.
and and what?
Smart.
Oh,
They were
this is
smart.
this is smart. Let's see. I think that's all I about have about that. But they do have, and I mentioned this on another podcast, but this particular park, because it is so beautiful and green and kind of rolling hills in a way, this is a really great park to walk in. You can walk in it, you can ride e-bikes. They have different places that you can go do that. It's one of those, and again, I always talk about how interesting it is that a lot of these Civil War battlefields are places that people like to get out and go walking. Like on a
Right.
Sunday morning, they do their walk. If you live in the area, people go out there and go walking.
Sure. Sure. Well, I imagine it's beautiful and peaceful. So,
It is definitely that.
yeah.
So yeah, so it's nice that they have done as much preservation and restoration so that we can really understand the battle that happened there. And it's a great place to go. It's a great place to go visit. So I highly recommend it.
Nice.
Yeah. So I think that's about all I got to say about that.
Well, all right. I learned
Do you have
something.
anything you would like to add?
No, not really. I did learn something. Okay, I learned something.
The thing that you'll probably take away is about old Abe.
No, actually, I'll be thinking about what did you call them? View sheds
View
or
sheds,
sheds?
yes.
View sheds.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Got to sort that out in my head.
Okay. Well, you do that
I'll do
because
that.
that's what they were. So, okay. Well, I think that's about it for today. So if you've enjoyed this podcast, please be sure to subscribe, like us, get notifications,
Buy us a coffee.
buy us a coffee, or buy some
Buy some
merch.
merch.
There you go. Do all of the above. And we'll look forward to sharing some more wonderful natural, historical, cultural things with you next week.
Exactly. We'll be
All
here.
right. So until next time,
Hike your own hike.
hike your own hike. We'll see y'all later.
Bye.
Bye.